The game starts with a short scene showing someone waking up in an obscure basement room and being instantly shot in the head. In this game, you can choose to play Jill or Chris, and they have a bit different storylines. In this video, I will explain Jill's perspective, and if you want to see what happened to Chris, just check out my other video on the channel. Raccoon Forest, July 1998, with Alpha Team flying in a helicopter. They are searching for the missing Bravo team. There's been a wave of mysterious murders lately in Raccoon City. Many reports indicate families being murdered by a group of around 10 people, and victims being apparently eaten. Alpha Team finds a crashed helicopter that belonged to Bravo. Inside there are remainings of the pilot, who looks like he was attacked by wild animals. Alpha begins to search for others, and one of them is being attacked by mad dogs. Those are not normal dogs, and they start to chase the rest of the team. They find shelter in a mansion in the middle of the woods, but just 3 STARS members survive the chase: Jill, Valentine, Captain Wesker, and Barry. Chris is missing. Soon they hear a gunshot in another room, and Wesker orders Jill and Barry to investigate. The room is empty, but Barry finds blood on the floor. Jill goes to check the rest of the mansion. In the corridor, she sees a man eating someone's flesh. Turns out, it's a zombie. Jill runs back to Barry, who shoots the creature. They go back to Wesker to report, but they can't find him. The two split up to search for Wesker and Chris. Jill goes back to the eaten corpse and finds a videotape there. Upstairs, she encounters more zombies and finds a golden arrow that helps her to open a tomb in the backyard, where she discovers a hanging coffin and 4 sculptures of masks on the wall. Soon she finds a shotgun hanging on the wall, and suddenly a ceiling on corridors starts to drop down and Jill gets stuck as both doors are shut. Luckily, Barry hears her screaming for help and shoots the lock, grabbing Jill at the last second. Jill asks Barry, "What are you doing here? Because you were supposed to be in the other part of the mansion as we agreed earlier, remember?" He says he needs to check something and quickly changes the subject. Weird. He points that they need to secure an escape route from this place, and they split up again. Jill also finds a room with serums. Then she goes through the balcony, where she is attacked by a zombie dog. She also spots someone sitting on a bench. It's a dead member of STARS, probably Bravo. Jill finds a grenade launcher next to the body. When she gets back to the mansion, she meets a wounded Richard from Bravo team. He tells her that the place is filled with monsters. He talks about a big snake that bitten him. He asks Jill for serum, so she brings one from the room she found earlier. In return, Richard gives her the walkie-talkie. Then she goes to Barry, who is in the laboratory reading some documents. It's kind of a researcher's diary, and he addresses his notes to a woman named Alma. One of the parts is ripped off. Jill finds more notes proving that this place was used to genetically experiment on animals. It's a diary of a man who was a keeper of those animals. He describes how he got infected with the chemicals they were using on them and slowly changed into a zombie. Then Jill finds a piano and plays a little piece that opens a secret passage, where she finds a golden emblem. She goes past Richard, who looks like he was resting. She reaches the basement and bang! A giant snake appears. But guess who also came to this party? Richard, so I guess he's not a zombie right now. Also, he brought a shotgun, and the two shut down the snake. Jill thanks Richard, but turns out the snake is not dead and attacks Jill. Richard pushes her back in the last second and gets eaten by the snake. Jill grabs the shotgun and escapes. She goes back to the basement/tomb and puts death mask on the wall. That pulls down the coffin, and of course, a zombie pops out. Inside the coffin, Jill finds a medal that she uses to open the door to the laboratory. Barry connects through the radio, warning Jill to stay out of the forest as there's a giant monster in there, but she does the exact opposite and goes there. She even finds a small house with a fire burning in the chimney, but suddenly a chained monster shows up and stuns her. But it doesn't eat her or do her any further harm, so when she wakes up, she just runs away. Then Brad tries to make a radio contact. Who is Brad? Well, he's the guy who was flying the helicopter at the beginning, and he kinda ran the other way when the rest go for the mansion.
You hear me?
Jill tries to respond, but her walkie-talkie is broken. So she finds a pool and rubs water from it, and it turns out it's a hidden passage to the other part of the mansion where Jill is attacked by a giant spider. When she walks next to the room 002, she overhears a conversation of 2 men. She hears only parts of it, but we can figure that one of them cooperates to save his family. And then she meets Barry, who admits that he was just talking to himself. Jill reads a note about experimenting with T-virus on plants and one of them growing significantly. Also, there's something about an accident in the laboratory that made all the scientists go mad, and the place is flooded right now with chemicals and water probably also affecting the plant growth. The notes also point out that plants have some intelligence at this point. Notes are signed by Henry Sarton. She also finds a corpse of the last survivor from the mansion that hanged himself and a key that opens a passage to the underground tunnels that look more like a military base than your ordinary basement. In the flooded room, Jill is attacked by sharks, but she manages to escape to the control room. She drains the water and goes back to the main room, where she uses some electrical devices that she throws into the water and electroshock the sharks. Back in the mansion, she can't ignore the presence of giant plants on the walls. Finally, she encounters Plant 42 and kills it. Then she meets Wesker, who talks about Barry acting weird and that finding a way out is a priority. Jill returns to the other part of the mansion and Brett again reaches her on the radio. But the signal is weak and she can't answer. Then she's attacked by other mutants. Those are apparently frogs, and they so much look like the famous battle frogs, right? She finds a grave of George Trevor and some of his notes from 1967, and also an orders for the security head of the place. And listen to this. Turns out that everything was planned. Laboratory personnel deaths were supposed to look like an accident. Someone planned to lure the STARS team into the mansion to make them fight against mutants, just to make a report on their combat abilities. And the security chief? He was also responsible for taking samples of experiment objects, excluding the one named Tyrant. Jill finds some jewels and an entrance to the mine where she meets Enrico. He informed her that someone is a traitor, and then someone shows up and shoots him in the heart. Enrico dies and Jill almost dies under a hidden trap. Then she finds a spider's nest and through it she reaches Barry. They take elevator down to the mine and hear the weird sound, so brave Barry tells Jill to go check it out, while he...
I'll stay here and secure our escape route in case something happens.
Okay.
Will secure this place. Well, what can a girl do? She goes and finds the mutant she encountered earlier, you know, the one with the chains. So she goes back to tell Barry, and he escapes without her. She manages to overpass the creature and gets into this disturbing place. That seems to be the monster's condo, I guess. She steals a jewelry box and finds a family photo. On its back is written that George was terminated while Jessica and Lisa were injected with a virus back in 1967. There's also a child's diary. The little girl was separated from her mother during the experiment and the virus changed her. So, when they meet back, she had a paranoia that's not her mother, but someone wearing her face. So, Lisa killed her real mom and ripped off her skin, because she thought it would be a nice gesture to give it back to her mom when she meets her. So if you didn't figure it out yet, this is Lisa. Then Jill finds Barry. He says he was worried, but right after that he tries to sucker punch her, but she easily takes his gun and starts to question him. This conversation is interrupted by Lisa, who is apparently angry about stealing her jewelry. Jill gives the gun back to Barry, and he distracts Lisa until she releases the giant stones to open the gate and Lisa's mom's grave. Lisa finds the skull of her mother and jumps down the platform. Without explaining what happened between them 5 minutes earlier, they split up. She uses metals she found earlier to drain the fountain. Underneath it's a laboratory where Jill learns that the mansion is just a cover-up for the underground facility of a company named Umbrella Corporation. Umbrella experimented with viruses to create bioweapons that ended with discovering a T-virus that turns subject into angry, deadly beasts. She also finds equipment to watch the tape she found early in the story. Well, it's a just disappointing POV scene of Kenneth getting killed by a zombie. There's also a projector and footage showing subjects of experiments which she already met, except the one named Tyrant. And at the end of this, there's a photo of a group of scientists with Wesker on it. Other documents say that basically all the personnel was infected with that virus and half of them died. The secret security patrol team that Umbrella sent to the facility was eliminated, so the research is in danger of public disclosure. The secret security patrol team should ring a bell if you've seen the first Resident Evil film with Mila Jovovich. Jill brings back the power while being chased by whatever this is. Then she meets Barry next to the elevator. They go up and meet Wesker. Barry immediately turns against Jill. Turns out that his family is in danger, so he must obey Wesker. He explains to Jill that the place needs to be burned down along with all the evidence of Umbrella experiment. So no hard feelings, sweetheart, but you're an evidence. He tells Barry to go up and wait for him. Then he explains Jill that Barry doesn't even have to do anything with the Umbrella Corporation and he just used him for his personal fun. Jill doesn't quite follow and Wesker shows her the tyrant. Then he tries to shoot her, but Barry gives him a bullet first. Now that's what I call a redemption, right? But no time for a reunion party since Wesker released the tyrant. The creature first puts Wesker to sleep, then takes care of Barry and starts playing cat and mouse with Jill, but she manages to stop him with a gun. Barry survived the punch and is okay. So is Wesker, who is already gone. And he also activated the self-destruction system, so Jill and Barry must find a quick way out. On her way to the surface, Jill finds a cell where Chris is locked and releases him. The trio uses an elevator and find a landing pad where they try to contact Brad, but Tyrant pops out from the ground. With less than 3 minutes to self-destruction, Barry is out of bullets. Chris gets knocked down, so things don't look very good for Jill. But Brad finally shows up and throws her a rocket launcher. And one clear shot from this baby handles the job. Then we see a helicopter flying away while the mansion blows up. Jill, Chris and Barry happily fly towards the sunrise, and you can tell that Jill and Chris kinda like each other. This is the best possible ending, but wait, there's more. This game has multiple endings possible, so if you don't save Barry by giving him back the gun and protecting him from Lisa and Tyrant, then there's no Barry in the ending cutscene. If you don't find Chris, there's no Chris, and in the ending Barry is just looking at his family photos, while Jill is wondering what happened to Chris. And there's also a possibility in which you don't save Chris and let Barry die, then Jill just flies alone. Also, the mansion doesn't explode if Barry is killed by Lisa. And no, that's still not the end, because the plot is a bit different if you choose Chris, so you can see it in my other video where I explain what happens in the game when you pick Chris at the beginning.